Hey everybody, welcome back to Unite Inside. In this video, I want to address a very interesting coping mechanism that a lot of people might find themselves experiencing, and it is a pattern that we learn in childhood. Which is self-hatred. Self-hatred, what it really is, and how can we finally release it. Okay, so in this video, this is what I want to address with you, so let's do it. When we engage in self-hate activities, it's always because there is some type of payoff that we're getting out of it. It's because we've been in situations where the only way for us to survive is to hate on ourselves. And I want to explain more about this because a lot of self-sabotage or self-hatred, it's not because we actually hate ourselves. Nobody hates themselves. We love ourselves so much, okay? We do not hate ourselves. But what it means is we have extremely unhealthy coping mechanisms, extremely unhealthy tendencies that we use to protect ourselves. So with this being said, if you are somebody that hates themselves, it's because there is a lot of situations in life where you can be involved in a certain experience that makes you feel so powerless and helpless that there is nothing else to do for you than to start hating on yourself. And I'm gonna give you an example here. Imagine that you were a little kid in an environment where you had a narcissistic parent and they were very abusive. They treated you so bad. They put you down. They made you feel so worthless all the time. And every time you would stand up for yourself, they will shut you down. Every time you speak up, they punish you. Every time you talk about your needs, they ignore them and also tell you that you don't deserve them. Okay? So, what do you do in this position as a little kid that is trapped in a certain household where you are experiencing this type of narcissistic abuse? Okay? A lot of us will feel so powerless that the only way for us to get our needs met through our parent, the only thing we can do so that we can be felt or we can feel some type of connection is to actually agree with our parent. So what do? We actually develop a part of us that starts to agree with our parent. Like, for example, we start to believe that, yes, I am not worthy. Yes, I am not good enough. Yes, I don't deserve love. Yes, I do deserve punishment. Why? It's because that is our only way for us to actually feel some type of rapport with our parents. Why? It's because at least then we have some type of um, agreement or connection that feels like a connection. It's not really a connection, but it's because we cannot be heard, we cannot be seen, we cannot be felt, and we won't be understood with that by that parent. And that parent will not meet our needs at all. So we have two choices to take when we are in a position like that. Either to accept the truth that our parent is a horrible person, that they are the problem, that they indeed are abusing us, which is very scary to accept as a little kid. Okay? Imagine accepting that you are living with a monster, that you are indeed a victim of them. How would you feel? Wouldn't you be so terrified? Wouldn't you want to run away from the house if you actually, get your mind around this truth, if you truly let yourself as a little kid believe that, okay, see the truth about your parent, that they are indeed a narcissistic monster, you're gonna be like, oh my god, I want to die. That means that I'll never get my needs met. You know that how that feels when you're a child? You don't feel that you have any other options. It's not like when you're an adult and someone is treating you bad and you're like, I can just move on to the next person. As a little kid, you don't feel that you can move on from your parents. You don't feel that you feel that if a parent doesn't love you, then you'll never be loved. Then who will ever want to love you? Because it's your parent. It's the person that gave birth to you, or it's the person that literally contributed to giving birth to you, like your dad. So like you literally look at them like, oh my god, this is the person, this is my caregiver, and they are abandoning me. So you can either, in the moment, you don't know if you have any options, you don't know if you're going to have any other experiences because you're a little kid. In that moment, you're living a life of a little kid, so you need a parent to love you, you need a parent to be there for you, to take care of you. So you feel like, if I am not being loved and if I am being abandoned, then that means that I will die. That's literally what it means for you as a little kid. It means that you will starve, you won't get your needs met, and just get in your mind, if like, just being able to get yourself to believe this truth or to feel this truth is so disgusting. It's like you can't do it as a little child. It's just so scary. You don't want to believe it. So what do? You put a mask on and you start to, it literally, in that moment, feels better for you to believe that I am not worthy. I am maybe a bad kid. Maybe I am, a troubled kid, because a narcissist will always try to make you feel like you're the problem. So you feel like, okay, I am going to adopt this identity that I am the problem, because at least that makes you feel like you're part of something. At least then you won't be abandoned. At least then they will still consider you as their child that is always the problem, and there's this type of story about you, and at least you're being kind of, like, you can at least feel that it feels better for you to think that maybe I'm the problem than to actually face the truth that you are not the problem and that they are the problem. Okay? Because that is very scary. So that's what happens to a lot of people. When they reach this point, they actually start to feel that it's better to believe and agree with their parents. Whatever gaslighting phrases your parent would tell you, you start to believe them. You start to believe, okay, I am going to believe all these things because that makes me feel better. At least that gives you some type of power. I mean, if you were the problem, that means that you can do something about it, right? Actually, that's really what it means. But if you weren't the problem, that means that no matter what you do, you'll never be loved by them. And that is a very hard truth to swallow for you as a kid. So you develop a coping mechanism that you're hating on yourself. You actually put yourself down. You actually tell yourself you're not good enough deep down. And you also internalize everything that they tell you so that you can feel that maybe it isn't that bad. Maybe I'm the problem, and maybe I just need to improve and become better, and everything will be happy again. And you feed yourself this story so that you can get through this very painful childhood. I'm not saying that the parent has to be an actual narcissist. It can be just a parent that is very emotionally distant from you, or a parent that doesn't know how to take responsibility. So like you feel like, I need to take responsibility in this situation because you want some type of control. Because if your parent won't take responsibility, no matter how much you try, when a parent hurts us or when a person hurts us, we feel so much pain and anger, and we direct that towards them. We think, okay, they should take responsibility for this, because they caused it. But when you do this and a parent refuses to take responsibility, what happens is that you don't know what to do with that anger. You don't know what to do with that pain. It's not being resolved. There isn't any type of healthy environment for you to actually process your anger, and also hurts. Mostly it's hurt first, and that hurt becomes anger because you become really angry. You're not getting loved. You're not getting the type of feedback that you want to get from your parents. So what happens is that anger builds up and up and up, and then you don't know where to direct it. So what happens is that you direct it towards yourself. That's what happens. That's actually what happens when it comes to the self-hate type of coping mechanism, is that we actually look at ourselves for, we tend to hold ourselves accountable for everything, and also blame ourselves for everything, because somebody in our life just was so in their own world that they didn't want anything to do with the way they treat us and with the way they talk to us. So they made you feel that there is nowhere else to go to with your pain and hurt, because you get blamed for it, you get hurt for it, you get punished for it. What I mean with this is you get punished for the way whenever you try to stand up for yourself or whenever you try to speak up. So when that happens repeatedly, what do you think is going to happen? Like, you're going to have so much built up hurt, and it's going to be suppressed. You're going to try to suppress that hurt, and then you're going to have so much anger, and that anger is going to be towards you. You're going to have to, like, it's going to start to eat you up from within. That's actually what happens. And so that's why a lot of these people engage in self-punishment practices, like punishing yourself, hitting yourself, not letting yourself get what you want, hating on yourself, sabotaging your life. It's all because all these things that you're doing is because of how much anger that you have, that you don't know how to process in the right way. Okay, this particular pattern, there's a lot of reasons um, why you could be blaming yourself. But in this particular pattern we're trying to unpack right now is actually about not knowing where to direct that anger. Okay, so it becomes internal. You start to become angry at yourself because you can't take them into consideration. They're not going to ever take responsibility for their mistakes. So you think that I should take responsibility for everything so that I can feel powerful just a little bit. So you're looking for that feeling of, I have some type of control over this situation. So you start to think, hold on, at some point in your childhood, you were blaming them and talking to them and trying to get them to be accountable, but then they did not take that responsibility. So at some point you figured out that maybe you should make yourself accountable. Maybe you should make yourself responsible for this, because at least then you put it in your own hands. So when you do this, every time you do this, you're basically trying to take responsibility for something that you didn't do. Okay? And at the same time, you're blaming yourself for something that someone else did, and you're giving yourself a lot of things that you don't have to give yourself. Like, for example, every time you tell yourself that, okay, he didn't love you, maybe because you didn't show up the right way, you actually kind of gaslight yourself in a way. So there's a self gaslighter there that you are working with, and that we have to, like, unpack. You know, you have to dig deeper and find out which part of you gaslights you, and also find out why does it gaslight you. Is it because it wants to feel better? Is it because it feels that if it sees the truth, that it feels so painful deep down? It's so painful to actually come in, um, like, finally look at the truth. Maybe that's what's happening, because maybe that means something for you. Maybe if you really see the truth, that means that you'll never be loved. That's the meaning that you give it. So you have to go in the feelings that you're trying to run away from. That's the first step that you have to do, is find out which parts of you are actually afraid of certain emotions, and then you have to address these emotions, because these emotions hold beliefs about yourself, limiting beliefs, like, I am not good enough, or I'll never be loved if they don't love me, or also fears like, oh my god, if they have abandoned me, then I'll be abandoned forever, whatever it is. Okay, so the second thing you can do to actually get yourself out of this self-abuse, self-abandonment type of pattern of self-hatred is to realize that blaming yourself never works. It's because every time you blame yourself, you don't actually, what you do in that moment is you're trying to get your anger out on yourself. You're so angry, and that gives you some type of a payoff. You feel better when you blame yourself, and when you can take that blame, and then it feels like you're releasing some type of guilt. Because a lot of times when we're going through abuse, we feel so much guilt. We feel as though we're responsible for this, even though it is really not. There's this guilt that we hold on to, because we want to hold on to it. Because if we don't hold on to it, we're going to feel so powerless. So there is this guilt that we're holding on to, that we're also trying to get rid of. And so we're so angry at the same time. And at the same time, we direct that anger towards ourselves in that moment. And that makes us feel better, but it never really helps us to see and become truly aware of what we can really do. If there is really something to take responsibility for, we can't really see that because we're involved in blaming ourselves instead. So blaming yourself really takes away the attention from actually taking responsibility for something. Okay, and also it takes away from seeing the truth about a certain circumstance. Because blaming yourself in the moment means for you that it feels better because it means that, okay, at least I'm the problem. But you have to unpack this in a way where you're like, okay, being the problem doesn't really serve me, because getting that little bit of report from this person is actually abusing myself, because I deserve full love. You have to finally discover your actual worth, your actual value. You have to start discovering that you deserve better than to blame yourself and then to be with someone that is abusing you and still gaslight yourself about it. That you do deserve a lot. The reason why you're still in this situation is because you don't believe that you deserve better. You think you have a belief that maybe you don't deserve better. Maybe you actually deserve to be abused. Unfortunately, that's why you're holding on to abusing yourself and blaming yourself. Is because if you don't do that, you feel like you have to now see the truth about what's really going to happen. You have to really see. It's basically like a protective mechanism. Blaming yourself and like really abusing yourself is almost like a coping mechanism. You do it so that you can protect yourself from actually experiencing seeing a truth that you don't want to see. I hope that this is making sense for you. So you have to finally get yourself into a point where you are able to see the truth about your situation and that you are indeed worthy. Okay? So it's very complicated to unpack this self hatred type of pattern, because it's actually what we need to do is to repair our relationship with ourselves and to get into a place where we are healthy with ourselves, when we don't adopt abusive tactics and patterns so that we can get what we want out of it. You have to write down, what are you getting out of it? Just ask yourself, do some inner work. Ask yourself, what am I getting out of hating on myself? Am I feeling a little bit of power, or am I feeling a little bit of control? Am I protecting myself from a very potential scary possibility that might be true? What am I doing? And then ask yourself if it's worth it to keep holding on to this, because of if it's worth it to keep hiding and to keep holding on to this fear, or can you just face it? Or will it be better to just face this fear that you have? Okay? Will it feel a lot more refreshing to finally release yourself from this self abusive pattern that you are adopting? Okay? So it's all about awareness and realizing that these coping mechanisms maybe worked when you were a child, but it doesn't work anymore, and that you deserve better for yourself, and to just choose better for yourself. Choose better practices, maybe meditation, maybe holding yourself accountable in a different way, like for example, maybe making things better instead of like actually, if you did something wrong, try to fix it in the right way, and not like by blaming yourself first. And also another thing is to try to process that anger that you have. So, like I'm talking about, there is a lot of anger that adds to this self hatred process. So, you have to open up this hatred that you feel, and also anger. There is this hatred and anger, and then you don't know uh, where to like direct it, so you direct it towards yourself. But you have to start writing it down, journal it, talk to yourself about it, talk to other people about it. You have to let it out somehow, cry about it, or whatever it is, whatever releasing practices that you can do to actually come face to face with your anger, and then ask yourself, how do I feel about it? How do I feel about this thing? Why am I so angry about it? And why am I angry at myself? It's because maybe you didn't have anyone in your childhood to actually take care of you and love you, so you expected a lot of yourself. And every time you got hurt, you blamed yourself for it. So maybe that's what happened, because you didn't have anybody else to blame for it, because they could not take the blame, even though they were wrong. So yeah, you have to unpack it like this. And I hope that this really helped you, and to finally become aware, because awareness is so important. It's actually what's gonna make you, um, like, the more aware you are, the more you can release it and let it go. Okay? Because you're going to become aware of the fact that it doesn't really work, and that there is other ways that you can do. And the more you can support yourself, and instead of, developing this coping mechanism where you're actually hitting on yourself so that you can get something out of it, you can discover that it's not worth it to get what I'm getting out of it. That validation that I'm getting out of it is not worth it. And to actually start to support yourself instead. Because a lot of these patterns, we can be so attached to them that it's very hard to let go of them, because we've actually been getting this type of validation for so long, and we don't know how to live without it. We don't know how to let it go. We don't know what's going to happen if we don't have it anymore. We feel this uncertainty and unsafety. Like, what if I let go of my self-hatred pattern, but then I discover that I'm actually not worthy? Or what if this happens and then I get hurt for the rest of my life by other people? So it works like a protective mechanism to protect you. Okay, so but when you reach a point where you're healing so much and you love yourself, you're practicing so much self-love, it can be very easy to release it. Okay, so I hope that this video helped you, and if you like it, you can comment and also like and share with people that you love. And if you are interested in actually unpacking your patterns with a professional and with someone that can really help coach you and take you through this journey, you can absolutely contact me via Facebook, and you're going to see it in the information section of this video. Okay, so I hope that you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video.